The phone buzzed at 3:07 a.m., its glow piercing the dark room. Emily stared at the screen, heart pounding. The words cut deeper than any blade. "We need to talk," she whispered. "Not tonight, please." But silence answered. She clutched the phone tighter, praying it was a mistake, but fear coiled in her chest. Miles away, Daniel turned his phone face down, his world too heavy to share. Emily said, "Why now? Why this hour?" Her thoughts spilled like broken glass. She remembered the last time his name lit up her screen with love, not dread. The distance had stretched thin, but never this cruel. She sat frozen, tears tracing her cheeks. Every unanswered call became a scream she could not voice. The night air felt colder, the shadows sharper. Hope cracked. She whispered, "Don't let me be the only one holding on." But the silence grew louder, and in that moment, her world began to collapse. Emily sat frozen, staring at the faint glow of her screen. Her heart felt hollow, like a drum echoing in an empty hall. She said, "Not like this, not tonight." The words fell flat against the silence. She replayed old calls in her mind, his laughter once filling her nights, now only an echo. She remembered nights when even short texts felt like lifelines. Tonight, those lifelines snapped. She whispered, "Why am I always waiting?" Her chest tightened. The silence grew unbearable, her breathing ragged. She dialed his number, but it rang into nothingness. With every unanswered ring, despair dug deeper. The night felt longer, colder, and each second stretched eternity. She clutched her pillow as though it could replace the warmth that was gone. Daniel sat under the neon haze, smoke swirling around him. His phone buzzed again, but he didn't reach for it. He muttered, "Not tonight." His mind raced with excuses he couldn't speak. The distance felt like a wall, growing higher each day. He remembered the last promise he made, words he hadn't kept. Guilt sat heavy, yet freedom tugged harder. He looked at the city below, its pulse drowning her voice. The thought of Emily's waiting face twisted his chest. He said quietly, "She deserves more." But he stayed still, cigarette burning low, silence heavier than any confession. Emily scrolled through their old texts, fingers trembling. Each word once felt alive, now hollow. She whispered, "Was it always me holding on?" Her eyes blurred with tears. She remembered his late-night calls, promises of forever. Yet tonight, forever felt fragile. She typed a message, erased it, typed again, erased. Nothing felt enough. The clock ticked louder, mocking her patience. She muttered, "Say something." The emptiness devoured her voice. She hugged her knees, phone still glowing like a cruel reminder. Hope thin to a thread, ready to snap. Daniel finally unlocked his phone, her missed calls filling the screen. He exhaled sharply, guilt pressing against his ribs. He muttered, "I can't give her what she wants." His thumb hovered over reply, but he hesitated. He remembered her laughter, her faith, her endless waiting. The memory burned, but he still set the phone aside. He whispered, "Maybe it's kinder this way." Yet even as he spoke, loneliness pierced him. He stared into the night, but no city light could ease the ache. Emily sat at her small desk, photos scattered around her. She whispered, "This is why I wait." Her eyes lingered on a picture of Daniel smiling, his arm around her. That smile once lit up her world. She remembered nights of long calls, when distance felt like a challenge they could win. She clutched an old letter, his handwriting smudged from years of folding. Her chest tightened with a mixture of pride and pain. Friends had told her to let go, but she stayed. She said softly, "He'll see how much I've given." The room was silent, but her mind overflowed with memories. Hope glimmered, fragile but alive. She leaned back whispering, "It's always been worth it." Yet doubt crept in, lingering like a shadow she couldn't chase away. Daniel scrolled through his gallery, fingers pausing, on an old picture of Emily, laughing in sunlight. He muttered, "She deserved better than waiting." His chest ached, yet he couldn't bring himself to delete it. He remembered the first promise he made, whispering forever like it was easy. Now forever felt heavy. The city outside glowed, but it only sharpened the emptiness inside. He said quietly, "She gave up so much for me." His thumb hovered over the delete button, but he set the phone down instead. He exhaled smoke, staring into the blur of neon. The weight of her devotion pressed against him like chains he didn't ask for, yet chains he couldn't break. Emily sat on the porch outside her house, night breeze brushing her face. She clutched her phone, staring at the screen like it might come alive. She whispered, "I've waited through time zones, through silence, through every storm." Her mind replayed the sacrifices, skipping parties, ignoring friends, planning her days around his calls. The world thought she was foolish, but love had become her compass. She thought of her mother's warning, "Don't lose yourself waiting." But Emily said quietly, "I'd rather lose myself than lose him." The stars above blurred with her tears. She curled tighter into herself, convincing her heart that love was still enough. Daniel leaned against his balcony rail, the city buzzing beneath him. His friend had told him earlier, "She's too good for this waiting." The words echoed in his mind. He whispered, "I know." His shoulders sagged as he thought of Emily's endless patience. She had built her life around him, and he had only given her fragments. Guilt surged, but so did fear of losing his freedom. He dragged a hand down his face, muttering, "I can't be what she needs." Yet deep down, he knew she was the only one who had ever believed in him fully. Contradiction tore him in two. Emily lay in bed, clutching an old voice note from Daniel, his laughter filling the silence. She smiled through her tears. She whispered, "This is why I hold on." The sound wrapped around her like a blanket, fragile but warm. Every sacrifice suddenly felt worth it, even as her chest ached. She imagined him across the ocean, living his life, unaware of her clinging to echoes. Her friend's words returned, "You can't live on memories." Emily pressed play again, needing proof that it wasn't all fading. She said softly, "I'll keep waiting." The night answered with silence, but she let the voice carry her into fragile hope. Emily sat by the window, the phone pressed tight to her ear, listening to the endless ringing. Her chest rose and fell quickly, panic building with every unanswered tone. She whispered, "Pick up, please, just once." The silence burned hotter than words. She thought of every birthday he'd missed, the promises broken with excuses that no longer held weight. Nights she stayed awake until sunrise, waiting for his call, replayed in her head like cruel reminders. She whispered again, "Do I even exist in his world anymore?" Her reflection blurred in the glass, streaked with tears. The distance wasn't miles tonight, it was oceans of silence swallowing her whole. Her hands trembled as the ringing stopped, replaced by the hollow echo of nothing. Emily pressed the phone against her forehead, choking back sobs, realizing she was fighting a battle where no one else was showing up. Daniel sat at a crowded bar, neon lights flickering across his tired face. His phone buzzed in his pocket, but he ignored it, gripping his drink tighter. He muttered, "Not tonight." The laughter around him felt forced, like a language he no longer spoke. He glanced at couples leaning close, whispering secrets into each other's ears, and Emily's face flickered in his mind. Her waiting eyes haunted him, but he drowned it with another swallow of whiskey. He thought, "She deserves more than this ghost I've become." Yet guilt and cowardice pressed down harder than honesty. The music grew louder, but silence followed him inside. He smiled, at a joke he didn't hear, his chest hollow. The screen glowed again, her name lighting up like a flare in the dark, but he turned away. The drink burned, but not enough to erase her voice in his head. Emily sat across from Sarah at a cafe, untouched coffee steaming between them. Sarah leaned forward, voice soft but sharp. "You can't keep waiting like this." Emily shook her head, whispering, "You don't understand, he needs me." Sarah sighed, pain in her eyes, watching her friend unravel. Emily's hand trembled around her cup. "If I stop waiting, then what was all of this for?" she said, eyes glassy with exhaustion. Sarah replied, For yourself. For the life you're losing every day. The words cut deep, too sharp, too true. Emily pressed her lips together, holding back tears. The chatter of the cafe blurred into meaningless noise. She stared at the table, heart split between devotion and the gnawing truth that Sarah was right. Loyalty felt like love, but it was starting to taste like chains. Daniel leaned against the breakroom counter, sipping bitter coffee. His coworker grinned. "You're always distracted. Someone waiting back home?" Daniel forced a laugh, muttering, "Something like that." The casual tease cut deeper than intended. He thought of Emily, waiting, holding on to every promise he never kept. Her patience was a mirror he didn't want to face. He rubbed his eyes, sighing under the harsh fluorescent lights. "She deserves more," he whispered, too low for anyone to hear. His coworker shrugged, oblivious, sipping his drink. Daniel's chest tightened as temptation whispered in his ear. Easier escapes, closer comforts, no oceans between. Yet guilt chained him to her memory. He stuffed his phone deeper into his pocket, as if burying the truth could make it disappear. Emily scrolled through her feed half asleep, when a photo froze her blood. Daniel's face lit up in laughter, another woman's hand brushing his shoulder. Her breath caught, the phone slipping slightly from her grip. She whispered, "Who is she?" The smile he wore was one she hadn't seen in months. Her pulse quickened, dread spilling like acid. Every unanswered call, every delayed text, every empty promise gathered into this single moment of suspicion. Her throat tightened, whispering, "Am I already gone?" She zoomed in, studying every detail, but the truth burned clearer than pixels. Her chest ached with betrayal she couldn't yet prove. She curled forward, clutching the phone to her chest, praying it was nothing, but knowing it was everything. The room pressed in, suffocating, the silence now an accomplice to her worst fears. Emily stared at the photo on her phone until her hands went numb. The woman beside Daniel wasn't just anyone. She recognized her from months ago, his coworker, the one he once called just a friend. Her stomach twisted. She whispered, "He said she meant nothing." Memories of conversations returned in fragments, his quick laughter, his casual explanations. Now those words sounded hollow. Her chest burned as she scrolled deeper, finding more pictures, each one slicing her faith thinner. She muttered, "You've been lying to me." The weight of years of sacrifice pressed harder, threatening to crush her. She clutched the phone like it might break, but the truth had already shattered her world. Daniel sat at his desk, head in his hands. His phone buzzed endlessly, but he couldn't bring himself to look. He whispered, "She knows." The coworker had leaned too close at lunch, laughing too long, and someone had posted the photo. He hadn't stopped it, hadn't cared enough to protect what mattered. Now guilt gnawed through his chest. He thought of Emily's face if she saw it, hurt, broken, betrayed. He muttered, "I ruined her." His mind played back every promise he had whispered in the quiet of their distance. Each one felt like a lie now, stripped of meaning by his silence. He wanted to call, to explain, but he knew explanation was just another betrayal dressed as honesty. Emily sat with Sarah again, hands shaking as she showed her the photo. Sarah's lips tightened, her voice calm but firm. "This is what I tried to warn you about." Emily shook her head, tears blurring her sight. "No, it's not what it looks like," she whispered, even as her heart screamed otherwise. Sarah said, "He doesn't deserve your loyalty." Emily pressed the phone against her chest like a wound. She whispered, "Then what was I waiting for?" The question ripped her apart. Sarah reached across the table, holding her hand, but the comfort couldn't soften the truth. Emily's love had been tested, but now it was breaking under the weight of betrayal she couldn't deny. Daniel stood on his balcony, city noise below him, phone heavy in his hand. He typed and erased messages over and over. "It's not what it looks like. She's just a friend. Please trust me." None of them felt true. He muttered, "I can't fix this." His reflection in the glass looked foreign, a man too weak to keep promises. He remembered Emily's laughter, the way she always believed in him, and it cut deeper. He exhaled smoke into the night sky, each drag tasting like regret. He whispered, "You were the best thing I ever had, and I let it slip away." But his thumb never pressed send. The silence became his decision, his confession. Emily sat at her desk, the letter Daniel once wrote resting in her lap. She read the words, promises of forever, her tears staining the paper. She whispered, was it all a lie? Her heart felt torn between the man she loved and the truth she had uncovered. She thought of the nights she defended him, the excuses she built to protect him. Now each excuse shattered into pieces she couldn't pick up. She pressed the letter against her chest, sobbing quietly, the sound echoing in the empty room. She whispered again, "Why wasn't I enough?" The silence didn't answer. Only the letter, heavy with broken words, remained in her hands. Emily finally dialed Daniel's number, hands trembling, her breath ragged. When he answered, his voice was low, almost guilty. "Emily." She cut him off, voice shaking. "Who is she?" Silence pressed through the line, louder than thunder. Emily's tears turned to anger. "After everything I gave up, you couldn't even give me the truth." Daniel muttered, "It's not what you think." But she screamed, "It's exactly what I think." Her chest burned as her words tumbled out, raw and unfiltered. Years of waiting, nights of silence, sacrifices no one saw, spilled like fire. He whispered her name, but the sound only broke her further. Daniel gripped the railing, knuckles white. His voice cracked. "I never meant to hurt you." Emily's laugh was bitter, sharp as glass. "You hurt me every time you stayed silent." He closed his eyes, memories of her patience slamming into him. He muttered, "I thought I was protecting you." She fired back, "From what? Your lies." The distance between them collapsed into this single moment of truth. His heart pounded, words choking him, but none could fix what he had broken. Emily's sobs filled the silence he had created, and he realized she was no longer clinging. She was breaking free. Emily's voice trembled but hardened with each word. "Do you know what it's like to build your whole life around someone who treats you like a second choice?" Daniel said softly, "I never saw you as second." Her reply was cold. "Then why do I feel like I don't exist in your world?" The words sliced through him, leaving silence in their wake. He struggled to breathe, realizing the woman who had waited for years was slipping through his hands. Emily whispered, "I wanted to believe in forever, but forever doesn't lie." Her tears soaked the pillow, but her voice no longer begged. It condemned. Daniel leaned against the wall, sliding down until he sat on the cold floor. His voice was raw. "I didn't deserve you." Emily's breath hitched, but her reply was steady. "You're right, you didn't." His heart clenched at the finality in her tone. He whispered, "I loved you, I still do." She shook her head, whispering, "Love isn't silence, Daniel. Love isn't lies." The words cracked his chest open. For the first time, he felt the weight of what he had lost. He wanted to beg, but her silence on the other end was louder than his guilt. Emily pressed the phone tighter, her voice breaking into finality. "I waited for years, Daniel. I believed in you more than I believed in myself, but I can't keep drowning while you watch." His throat tightened, silence swallowing his reply. Emily's tears slowed as strength replaced sorrow. She whispered, "This is the last time I beg for love." Then she ended the call. The sound of disconnection pierced Daniel's chest like a blade. He stared at his phone, realizing it was not just a call that ended, it was everything. For Emily, the ache was unbearable, but for the first time she felt free. Emily sat on her bed, the phone dark and silent. For the first time in years, there were no messages to wait for, no excuses to believe. She whispered, "It's over." The words shook her body, but they also freed her. She wrapped her arms around herself, realizing she had been waiting for someone who never truly showed up. Her tears slowed, replaced by an unfamiliar calm. Memories still hurt, but they no longer chained her. She whispered, "I'll learn to breathe without him." The night outside was still cold, but her heart carried a fragile spark of warmth, her own. Daniel sat in the dark, the city alive outside his window. His phone screen still showed her name, the last call unanswered. He whispered, "She's gone." The words scraped his throat raw. He pressed his forehead against the cold glass, imagining her silence on the other end. For years, she had carried the weight of their love, and he had let it slip through his hands. Regret pressed heavy, but it was too late. He muttered, "I broke the only thing that mattered." The city lights shimmered, but for him, the night had never felt darker. Emily walked with Sarah through a quiet park, early morning air crisp. Sarah said gently, "You deserve more than waiting." Emily nodded, her steps slow but steady. She whispered, "I know." For the first time her words felt true. The ache hadn't vanished, but her strength began to rise from it. Birds stirred in the trees, and the light of dawn painted the sky. Emily smiled faintly, though her eyes still glistened. She said softly, "Maybe this is how healing begins." Sarah squeezed her hand, grounding her. The silence between them wasn't hollow anymore, it was safe. Daniel sat in his office, staring blankly at his screen. His coworker asked, "Row night?" He forced a smile, muttering, "Something like that." But inside, the words Emily had spoken echoed endlessly. Love isn't silence. Love isn't lies. He clenched his fists, realizing he had destroyed the only person who truly believed in him. Regret gnawed deeper, carving a void that no distraction could fill. He whispered under his breath, "I lost her for good." The office around him bustled with noise, but to him, it was nothing but static. Emily stood by her window, morning light spilling across her face. She placed the old letter on the desk, smoothing its creases one last time. She whispered, "I let you go." The words trembled, but they held strength. She opened the drawer and set it inside, closing it slowly, like closing a door in her heart. Her tears were quiet, but they no longer broke her. She whispered, "This is my life now, mine." Outside, the sky stretched wide, filled with fragile hope. Her chest still ached, but for the first time, she felt her heart beating for herself. Emily walked through the park alone, autumn leaves crunching under her shoes. She breathed deeply, the air cool and sharp. For once, her phone wasn't in her hand. She whispered, "I'm still here." The silence no longer felt like punishment. It felt like peace. Her chest ached, but it beat steady. She thought of the girl she used to be, the one who lived for calls and messages that never came. That girl was gone. Emily smiled faintly, tears drying in the crisp air. She whispered, "I survived you." The words weren't bitter. They were truth. Daniel sat alone at the bar, the stool beside him empty. His drink sat untouched, melting ice watering it down. He scrolled through his phone, staring at the silence where her name used to appear. He whispered, "She's not calling anymore." The weight of finality hit harder than any argument. The laughter around him rang hollow. He pressed a hand against his chest, as if trying to hold the pieces together. For the first time, he realized the distance had never been miles, it had been him. And now, there was no bridge left to cross. Emily sat with Sarah at their favorite cafe, sunlight pouring through the windows. Sarah said softly, "You look lighter." Emily nodded, sipping her coffee with steady hands. She whispered, "It still hurts, but I'm free." Her voice no longer trembled, it carried strength. Sarah squeezed her hand, pride flickering in her eyes. Emily smiled faintly, her heart heavy but steady. She thought of Daniel, of the years she lost to waiting, and whispered to herself, "Never again." The cafe noise wrapped around her like a new beginning. Daniel sat in his apartment, the letter Emily once sent lying open on his desk. He traced her handwriting with his finger, whispering, "You believed in me when no one else did." His voice cracked, regret flooding through him. The city lights blinked outside, indifferent to his pain. He pressed the letter to his chest, but it gave him no comfort. He whispered, "I lost you, and it's my fault." His tears fell silently, soaking the paper. For the first time, he knew her silence wasn't anger, it was finality. And nothing would ever bring her back. Emily stood at her window, night sky stretching endless above. Her phone lay silent on the desk, screen black. She whispered, "This is the last night I wait." The words cut clean, sharp as glass, but they freed her. She closed the curtains slowly, shutting out the darkness. For Daniel, the silence became unbearable. He stared at his phone, waiting for a message that would never come. But Emily didn't look back. The final line carved itself into her chest like a scar, and that was the last time his name ever lit up her phone.